This morning, today we're looking at plans by Nigeria's Apex Bank, the Central Bank of Nigeria. It plans to scrap the polymer notes for the 5 naira, 10 naira, 20 naira and 50 naira notes and replace them with paper notes. These notes were introduced in 2006, and CBN said that back then it did do some experiments or conducted some research that showed that these notes were quite durable. They would last longer than normal naira notes. They wouldn't tear easily or fade easily. But a few years down the line, that isn't the case. Well, that's what we'll be looking at today, and I'm being joined now by a financial analyst. He's also a former senior bank examiner at the Nigerian Deposit Insurance Corporation, the NDIC. Introducing Mr. Eghes Eyienyen. Thank you so much, Eghes, for being here.
Thank you, Esther. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Now, on this polymer note issue, the CBN says it's coming back to the drawing board. It's been quite a number of years since the polymer notes were introduced. Back then, the CBN said that during its publicity campaign that the notes were user-friendly. I'm quoting the Apex Bank, user-friendly. They look better, remain crisp over a long time, do not get stained, rumpled, or tear easily. But that's not the case right now. Just share your thoughts on this, should I call it the policy somersault of the Apex Bank?
Well, I think it's unfortunate that we even went this way at all, because even at the time that the central bank introduced these polymer notes, how many countries were using polymer notes in the world? Australia, where it was invented more or less, Brunei, Romania, Papua New Guinea, New Zealand, and Canada. And this is in a world of almost 180 countries. So even at that time, maybe we should have been skeptical about, the introduction of the polymer notes. I mean, they convinced us all that it would be better to have polymer notes because, of course, of the durability, and we took for granted that the CBN must have done its homework, because what has happened is that, indeed the currency is durable. The problem is with the ink, where you see that, you see faded 5 naira notes, 10 naira notes, 20 naira notes, 50 naira notes. If I some, when a currency loses its acceptability, then its role as legal tender becomes threatened, because you find that today, most people are beginning to reject, defaced polymer notes. And that's not good enough. So I'm actually supportive of the move by the central bank to phase out the polymer notes and gradually introduce
the paper notes.
The paper notes again.
Before we go to the paper notes, you mentioned 3-4 countries that use it, and Australia. And remember that contract was given to an Australian company back then. Obviously, they're still using these notes. So what's the difference? They use it. Does it boil down to the handling, which the central bank has also, pointed out as an issue? The handling, the abuse of the naira, the fact that Nigerians are not, exactly, it's not used. They're not user friendly as it were. But could that be a reason? You
have to understand that we're in a different climatic region, because we're in tropical Africa. And there's no country in Africa that uses polymer notes. You have to understand that even the handling, we are using the polymer notes is the lower denominations, 5 naira, 10 naira, 20 naira, and the velocity of money at that level is very is very high, which means that the speed or the rate at which the money changes hands. So a 5 naira note, while 1,000 naira notes may not go around, let's just use theoretically, maybe in a week, may not pass from hand to hand for maybe more than 10 times. A 5 naira note, can go around within that same period, over about 10 times. So the wear and tear is much. Okay. And again, and I think another major issue that, from my discussions with the CBN officials, one of the major challenges they've had with this polymer notes is even the issue of disposal. Because that normally, because it's a fiscal product, the wear and tear of currency is normal. So what happens with paper notes is that the paper notes are taken out of circulation. There's this process of briquetting, they call it, where they cut the paper into, they compress the paper and turn it into briquettes, which is really like you can use as fuel. But you can't do that with polymer because essentially it's plastic. And you cannot turn it to briquette like you can with the paper notes. And so the environmental impact is actually such that you are stuck with this. I mean, it's not environmentally friendly.
Surely the Apex Bank must have known that.
Yeah,
during that time they were conducting the research.
The major thing I think that was driving the decision there was the issue of costs and durability. Because in the long term, in the lifespan of the currency, because it's expected to produce in the first instance. But when you spread out the cost over the lifespan, the expected lifespan of the currency is actually cheaper on the long run. But I think the mistake was that, and again, you see, now one cannot now but think of maybe the influence of underhand dealings in that decision making, because you now know with hindsight now that a lot of things went under the table in Australia today. Some people are in jail because they were, they bribed some central bank, some government officials, including officials of central bank. I know that in January this year.
Just to allegedly, they were just to get the contract.
No, it's not alleged. I mean, in Australia,
didn't affect the quality of the.
No, the influence of the fact that maybe there was some corrupting influence in deciding. It's clear that, I mean, if somebody is going to gain from a decision to change to Polymer notes, that might have even blinded the person to the facts or the reality of the downside of the currents of the Polymer notes. And we are aware that, I mean, January this year, the FCC called back the former governor of the central bank, and we know that he's being investigated on account of the allegations related to that. So I'm saying this to say that clearly, I mean, it's obvious now that possibly the decision to go Polymer might not have been taken if the transaction was transparent. So I'm actually in agreement with the central bank that we need to. I mean, you cannot have a situation where you have currency circulation and people are refusing to receive it. And this is not the currency is not a paper. It is not. In some instances, you don't see it's not torn. Unless you cut it, it doesn't wear and tear and just cut like that. That's the advantage.
I have seen some that have been torn halfway, and I wondered, did somebody put a sharp object to it, or was it the wear and tear factor that made it tear?
With the way we handle currency in our country, I mean, people up to now, even with all the work that all the efforts the central bank did in terms of Soludo to make us change our behavior towards the currency. We see, in fact, some people even raised some tribal issues on it that, I remember I saw a post on Facebook where somebody was saying that it's in the Southwest that culturally spray money and dancing on money is a cultural thing, and that is actually tribalistic. I mean, can you imagine that somebody was claiming that the central bank governor at the time was being tribalistic by trying to stop Nigerians from using
from spraying money
and dancing on the money. But the point is that, so the way we use, see, because of illiteracy, and even because of poverty too, you find that the handling of money, is, although it's not just peculiar, it's not even peculiar to us, but the truth is that, the lower currency dominations, they go through a lot. In fact, I remember I read a report, about an experiment that was done in the US, and they took a dollar bill to the laboratory. You won't believe it. They found excrement on it. They found cocaine. They found particles of heroin. So if you understand that's why when you handle money, it makes sense for you to wash your hands regularly, because it goes through a lot of things. So the ones you saw that were caught, possibly it can happen. I mean, if you were to dance with your high heels on this money, you can be sure that you will destroy them.
No, I was going to ask, is it a Nigerian thing? But then something just occurred to me, because I have looked at the currencies of some of our neighboring countries, the Ghanaian dollars, the Kenyan shilling, and the Ghanaian cedi, and I did actually come across very, very horrible notes, many of them even worse than the naira. So is it an African thing? Because you look at the British pound, you look at the dollar. Yes, they have denominations, $10, $5, $20. Yes, they go through a lot, but they don't get to the point where it begins to actually even smell.
I think that experience or that issue is just because of the inefficiency of the central banks, because really what should happen is that, these are, if you understand, this is a product that is made from paper. I mean, the currency I'm talking about, and there'll be wear and tear on it. So usually there's a lifespan for every currency, and over so what was happening is that those currencies should have been withdrawn from circulation and destroyed, but that was not done. Possibly, just inefficiency, because really, in fact, yesterday I was at a bank and I drew some money, and I was asking, I said, look, why come you can't, issue clean notes anymore, even from your ATM machines. So the process of, central bank needs to improve on that process. Because you see a lot of banks that are dispensing, even, dispensing monies that should not be in circulation. Like you mentioned, dirty, stinky, defaced and all that. And you go to a bank and they are issuing these, and you have to be the one going through the notes to select which is the worst ones to return to them. So I think the central bank needs to improve on that, and on that process of ensuring that the currency is maintained. Because when the currency becomes defaced, when it becomes, it shouldn't be in circulation anymore. So what you are saying, the reason why you don't see many British pound notes in that state or American dollars is because, I guess, obviously they are more efficient in the way they...
Is it in terms of the quality of those currencies, or the handling, the attitude of the users?
It's the fact that, no, it's not even about the users. I mean, I mentioned the study that was done. It was America that was done, where I said they found excrements and found cocaine and all kinds of, even blood on currency, in the laboratory. So the usage is, it's a human. That's what, you see, sometimes we are not the worst of peoples in the world. I mean, all the human, the human beings can be unfortunately very depraved. The heart of man is desperately wicked. So people can be very wicked and very bad. So it's not an African problem. The thing is that their system, there's an efficient system of managing the currency in circulation, so that such currencies are taken out easily. So the issue,
so they do not get to the point where they get so degenerate.
Exactly. So when it begins, I mean, if you pay in those monies to bank, they don't come out again. But here, you pay the money to the bank, as they are still paying them out. So I would like to see the central bank improve on that and get the banks to ensure that they don't, once the money is, I don't know,
a certain level of wear and tear.
The central bank, to be fair to them, the cost of managing cash has been an issue, which was why one of the reasons why they tried to introduce the 5,000 notes, and all that, we know how that ended. I mean, I was personally supportive of that because I felt that, moving from 2,000 to 5,000 was quite, that's history now. But the point is that, in fact, one thing I would like to see the central bank do is even explore the possibility of actually engaging. I know there are some companies that are involved in currency management right now, but this process, is there no way to outsource some of that function, because the central bank is spending so much money, in the process of just currency management.
Do we have a figure? I've been actually trying to get my hand on the particular figure, or around, some kind of estimate of how much it actually did cost.
I don't have the figures, but I remember, during the, some of the figures were released by the central bank over the period of discussions over, the cost of when they were trying to push the idea of the 5,000 notes, but it's quite, it's a lot of money. But the point I was making is that, maybe the central bank should begin to consider, is there a way to outsource some of that function to private companies,
Well, they are doing that for these new notes. The new Naira notes are going to be...
I'm talking about this issue of even actually dispensing. I know there's a security issue involved, because, I mean, you don't have a situation where you format such a function and then,
the notes are duplicated somewhere else.
Exactly. So it's a very delicate thing, but, that is something that they could think of. But by and large, I'm happy that finally this should even have been done maybe 2-3 years ago.
Okay, let's talk about this new Naira notes that will be reintroduced sometime between June and July this year, according to the Apex Bank. Now, if we're going back to Naira notes for the 20 Naira, the 5 Naira, the 10 and the 50 Naira, do you think there's going to be a change in the quality? Are we going to go back to the exact same kind of Naira notes, or will the quality be better, especially since you consider the fact that the CBN says it's going to outsource this, the Nigeria the Nigeria Mint and Security Company is not going to handle it?
Well, I think maybe the printing company has some capacity issues in terms of maybe the volumes they can handle and all that, But even if it's I'm not up to date with where the technology is in terms of the quality of paper that can be used for Naira notes. But even if it's the same ones we are seeing with the 200 Naira, 100 Naira, 500 Naira, and 1,000 Naira notes, the key thing is a question of the efficiency of the central bank and the banks themselves in pulling out of circulation defaced, currency. So they must work on that process. If they are still not efficient in ensuring that once old, defaced, and tattered notes enter the banking system, they don't come out. then there's no polymer, and I understand that what they're trying to do is that they're not going to just stop the polymer notes, they're going to actually freeze it at over time. So we're going to see a situation where we have both the new notes in circulation, the new paper notes in circulation, alongside the polymer notes for a while, so that it may take up to 4-5 years before you actually see a situation where they have successfully fixed out polymer notes entirely.
Oh, until when they actually set a deadline, because I remember they set a deadline for the last Naira notes that from a certain month, banks will no longer accept Naira notes.
Well, that one, my understanding is that even for cost reasons, it doesn't make sense for you to want to, because it's going to be more expensive if you just want to pull out all the polymer notes at once and introduce paper notes at the same time. So my understanding is that it will be a phased thing, such that you'll be seeing polymer notes and the new paper notes in circulation at the same time. And then when the polymer notes are normal, because these notes are supposed to be replaced normally. So in terms of cost, I don't it's not really going to. I don't expect that it will cost the central bank any more than it would ordinarily, because what's going to happen is that when they are due to print, I understand that they've not been printing polymer notes they've not printed polymer notes for a long time. So when they were due to contract to print more polymer notes, instead of ordering for polymer notes, they will now introduce the paper notes. So it's the same money they would have used to produce those new notes, the old notes that they used to produce the new ones. So in terms of cost, I think it makes sense. I don't think
it makes sense, but obviously the central bank would be spending more this time.
Well, not necessarily, because like I said, because it's actually much more expensive to produce polymer notes.
Yeah, but in the long term, looking at the cost, it's cheaper in the long term.
In the long term, because when you look at the lifespan, the fact that the initial cost of producing polymer notes is much higher than producing paper notes. But it's cheaper only in the long term if you divide over the lifespan of the currency. Now, so I actually expect that it to be cheaper to produce. If you are going instead of going to order polymer notes now, or whenever they are going to place the order, now they use that same money or even less to produce paper notes. So I even think that it will be cheaper, for the central bank to do that change.
Still talking about costs, we know that the central bank is going to give this contract out to another foreign company, and it says that the Nigeria Mint and Security Company perhaps has capacity issues. Shouldn't we focus more on empowering in terms of capacity for the local minting company, so that we don't have to keep giving it out? You talk about the issue of security, although